More than 2,000 years ago, in the bustling heart of ancient Athens, a man named Plato sat down to ask one of humanity's oldest questions: what does it mean to live justly? He wasn't a king or a general. He didn't command armies or inherit wealth. Yet, with nothing more than words, he built an empire of ideas that still shapes how we think about politics, morality, and the purpose of society. At the center of his masterpiece, The Republic, lies a vision both radical and timeless, the vision of a world ruled by wisdom instead of wealth or brute power. This is the world of the Philosopher-King. Imagine Athens in the 4th century BCE, a city alive with arguments in its marketplaces, the scent of olive oil in the air, its citizens deeply proud of their democracy yet bruised by wars and political instability. Plato grew up during this chaos. He watched his mentor, Socrates, condemned to death by the very democracy that claimed to value justice. That tragedy left a deep mark on him. It convinced Plato that most societies, driven by ignorance and passion, are prone to injustice unless guided by reason and truth. Out of that pain was born his most famous dialogue, The Republic, a conversation about how to build a just society and how to nurture the kind of soul that can live justly within it. At first glance, The Republic may seem to be about politics, but it is really about the human soul. Plato believed that society is a reflection of its citizens. If the individuals are corrupted by greed and blind ambition, their state will be corrupt. If they cultivate wisdom, courage, and moderation, their society can become just. This idea, that a city's health depends on the virtues of its people, is one of Plato's greatest gifts to political thought. Plato opens the dialogue with Socrates debating what justice means. Is it simply telling the truth and paying debts? Is it helping your friends and harming your enemies? Is it just the advantage of the stronger, as some cynics claimed? One by one, these definitions collapse under Socratic questioning. Plato, through Socrates, argues that justice is more than a transaction or a tool of power, it's a harmony of the whole. Just as a well-tuned instrument produces beautiful music when each string plays its part, a society is just when every class of people fulfills its proper role in balance with the rest. This leads to Plato's famous vision of the ideal city, which he calls the Kallipolis, the beautiful city. In this city, people are divided into 3 classes: the producers, farmers, artisans, and merchants who provide for society's material needs, the auxiliaries, the warriors who defend the city and uphold its laws, and finally, the rulers, the guardians who govern. These rulers are not born into power, nor do they seize it through wealth or conquest. Instead, they are chosen from among the wisest and most virtuous, people who have undergone rigorous education and discipline. Plato calls them philosopher-kings. Why philosophers? To Plato, a true philosopher is not a mere bookworm or a clever debater. A philosopher is a lover of wisdom, someone whose deepest desire is to know the truth about reality and to live by it. Such a person isn't enslaved by money or fame, isn't seduced by pleasures, and isn't ruled by fear. They seek knowledge of the good itself, that ultimate source of all order and purpose. Plato believed that only those who know the good can truly rule justly, because they will govern not for personal gain but for the benefit of the whole community. This was a bold and revolutionary idea. In an age when kings often inherited power by bloodline or took it by force, Plato imagined a world where power would belong to those most capable of using it wisely. His philosopher-king was not an authoritarian tyrant but a reluctant leader, someone who would rather contemplate truth than wield power, yet who accepts leadership as a duty to serve the common good. To explain why philosophers are best suited to rule, Plato gives us the famous allegory of the cave. Picture a group of people chained inside a dark cave, facing a wall. Behind them burns a fire, and between the fire and the prisoners, objects are moved so that their shadows appear on the wall. The prisoners have never seen anything else, they mistake these shadows for reality itself. If one prisoner is freed and dragged into the sunlight, he will at first be blinded and confused. But as his eyes adjust, he will see the world as it truly is, vibrant, colorful, real. Returning to the cave, he would try to free the others, but they might laugh at him, even resist, clinging to the familiar shadows. This story is not just about the cave. It's about us. Plato believed that most people live chained by ignorance, mistaking appearances and opinions for truth. The philosopher, however, struggles upward toward knowledge of the ultimate reality, the forms, especially the form of the good, which is like the sun that illuminates everything. The Philosopher-King is the one who has seen this light and can therefore guide others toward justice and truth, even if the journey is difficult and unwelcome. Plato also explored the nature of the soul in the Republic. He compared the soul to a charioteer guiding two horses, one noble and obedient, representing our spirited courage, the other unruly and passionate, representing our desires and appetites. The charioteer symbolizes reason. For Plato, a just soul is one in which reason governs courage and desire, just as a just society is one in which wise rulers guide the warriors and producers. Justice, therefore, is both an inner harmony of the self and an outer harmony of the state. What makes Plato's vision remarkable is its moral depth. He didn't believe that justice was merely obeying laws or avoiding punishment. He saw it as the highest health of the soul. An unjust person might appear successful on the outside, wealthy, powerful, feared, but is inwardly fragmented, enslaved by appetite and ego. A just person might face hardship but lives in harmony with their true nature. This ethical core of the Republic continues to inspire philosophers, leaders, and ordinary people today. Yet Plato's ideas have always sparked controversy. Some argue that his ideal city is too rigid, even oppressive, because it assigns roles based on perceived natural abilities and controls many aspects of citizens' lives. Others worry that the Philosopher-King could become a tyrant if corrupted or if the idea of knowing the good is abused by those in power. These criticisms remind us that even noble visions carry risks when applied to the complexities of real human societies. Still, Plato's work endures because it invites us to think beyond the immediate and the practical. It asks us to imagine what a truly just society could be, and it challenges us to cultivate wisdom in ourselves. Even today, when democracies debate the role of experts, leaders, and the influence of ignorance and misinformation, Plato's questions remain urgent: who should lead, and on what grounds? Can wisdom and power ever be united without corruption? The figure of the Philosopher-King is also a mirror for every individual. While most of us will never rule a city, we all must rule our own inner world. We all face the challenge of harmonizing our desires with our higher reasoning, of seeking what is good rather than what is merely pleasurable or popular. In this sense, Plato's Republic is as much a guide to personal ethics as it is to politics. Let's step back for a moment and appreciate the audacity of Plato's vision. Over 23 centuries later, his dream of enlightened leadership continues to captivate our imagination. We still look for leaders who are wise, principled, and guided by truth rather than vanity. We still wrestle with the temptation of shadows, the easy illusions of wealth, status, and empty rhetoric. And we still long for a society where justice is more than a word, where harmony exists between the rulers and the ruled, between reason and desire, between the individual and the state. Plato's Republic is not a relic of an ancient world, it's a living conversation about what it means to be human. It tells us that justice is not imposed from the outside but grows from within, that true leadership is an act of service, and that the pursuit of wisdom is not a luxury but a necessity for the well-being of society. This message is as urgent today as it was in Plato's time, as we face our own caves of misinformation, division, and fear. In the end, the Philosopher-King's vision isn't about crowns or thrones. It's about enlightenment, about those rare individuals who strive to see the truth clearly and then dedicate themselves to guiding others toward it. Whether in politics, in communities, or within ourselves, Plato's ideal reminds us that the greatest power is the power to know what is good and to act upon it. So the next time you hear about Plato's Republic, don't think of it as just an ancient book on dusty library shelves. Think of it as a mirror held up to our society and to our souls. Ask yourself, are we still chasing shadows, or are we ready to step into the light?